Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it'd be so nice to have a little screen or something to be able to see it and not have to, you know?
I know.
Or just use books.
Let me get through this week's
Yeah.
tech help, which is still now bleeding into next week because it's still not
It's still not doing what you want it to
doing
do.
what it needs to be doing. And by the way, just FYI, this is totally on me. I screwed up. And we just have a single camera for tonight because I completely forgot to schedule the live control
Oh.
with everything else. So I did call them up. They got us up on Zoom. They've got everything working the way we need it to work, but it's just going to be the central camera and
Okay.
just a single shot.
That's not the end of the
Yeah,
world.
I know. I just felt bad. It's like with everything
So
else.
it's just a broad
Yeah, it's
shot.
just a broad
It's
shot.
not.
The shot that you saw on Zoom is what we have all night.
Okay.
But it will have our slides and stuff like that. So all that stuff
Okay.
still happens.
Not the
tomorrow.
end of the world.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. So glad you're here. We're going to get started in just a little bit. Shabbat Shalom. He's just going to sit there during service.
Yes, I decided I can see that too.
We're going to ask you to be silent.
That's right.
Anyone that doesn't have the
Shabbat Shalom.
Here, Tanya, I'm going to make it all right for you now. Is that better? Oh, you're so cute.
Making everyone nervous.
I know. That's amazing. Wait, did I confirm the key? Hi, Nelly. How are you?
Good. When I ate
Here's the blessing for you right here.
I know.
Yeah.
Should I take mask or?
You should leave it on.
Okay.
But I'll bring the microphone over here for you so they can hear you. Okay? And like I said, I think I sent you an email right back when you said you got everything from me, that Rabbi had changed the reading before it, so I think Rabbi's going to read that reading. You'll just do the blessing.
Okay.
That's all you have to do.
So here, right?
So, yep, but you can go and sit in the congregation for now, and Rabbi will call you up when it's time.
I will meet my friend. I will
Perfect.
see she's parking.
Perfect. I love it. I'm so happy you're here, Nellie.
Thank you.
It absolutely is. Huh?
Amazing, because that is the population of LA County.
Right. I was wondering how big LA was.
Yeah, we have 10 million. So it's pretty amazing to me. It's the sixth largest economy in the world, just our county. Which is pretty impressive. Look how cute! The extended Gross family. Right, that's exactly what it is. Hello, my Marla.
It's 7.
Okay.
Fine.
My phone has
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Give us just 1 minute as we prepare to get started. Get your Shabbat Shalominess together to get ready for the service.
Oh, I like it.
Shabbat Shalominess, yes, one of my favorites.
Perfect. Describes it perfectly.
Yai lai la la lai, yai lai la la lai, yai lai la 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 lai, la 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 lai, yai lai la la lai, yai lai la la lai, yai lai la 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 lai, la 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 lai, yai lai yai lai la 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 lai, yai lai la 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 lai, lai la la lai. Ya la 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 ya 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 la 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 la. Yay, lay, la la la. Yay, lay, la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Yay, lay, la la la. Yay, lay, la la la. Yay, lay, la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Lay, 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 la 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 la. Ya lay, ya la 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 la. Lay, la 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 la. Ya lay, lay, la 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 la. Yay, lay, la 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 la. Ya lay, ya la la la. Yay, lay, la 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 la. Ya lay, 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 lay. Yay, lay, la la la. Yay, lay, la la la. Yay, lay, la 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 la. Ya lay, ya la lay, lay.
We begin on page 124 in our prayer books as we offer one another a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
May the door of this synagogue, whether virtually or physically, be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May the synagogue be, for all who enter, a doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. We turn to our Shabbat candlelighting. Wonderful, thank you so much.
We invite Nelly Yevdayev to light the candles.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותו להדליק נר של שבת.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Nelly.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Nelly, so much for bringing such beautiful radiance into our midst and welcoming in this holy day. And we also continue with something we haven't been able to do in a little while, and I'm so happy that we're able to start to do these things again with our blessing over our wine. And I want to actually start with a reading that was put together from HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, specifically for this evening. Because there's one Shabbat every single year that is put aside as Refugee Shabbat through HIAS. A Shabbat where we specifically think about all the people throughout the world who are refugees, where perhaps we think about our own family's history, our own stories. And we're going to be leaning into that a bit tonight. But first, we begin with this blessing. We lift this cup with words remembering our ancestors' exodus from Egypt on our lips. Zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. As we recall that ancient journey from slavery to freedom, we think also of the many times throughout history that our people have wandered in search of safety. From Tsarist Russia to the horrors of the Holocaust, to persecution in Iran, the former Soviet Union, Cuba, Ethiopia, and beyond. Time and time again, we have found ourselves forced out of our homelands for being who we are. But each time we were held together by community and assisted by those who risked their safety in protection of ours. We continued to survive against all odds as our hearts grew to hold others who would come to experience what we had. We fill our Kiddush cup to overflowing, hoping that the joy of Shabbat will spread into the week to come. And so it is as we welcome refugees and asylum seekers into our communities today. Recalling our exodus from Egypt, as the Torah tells us, you know the soul of the stranger. While our responsibility to protect the rights of refugees and asylum seekers does not derive from our experience in Egypt, that experience does amplify our obligation to welcome. May our commitment to welcome fill to overflowing just as our Kiddush cup does, leading us to take bold action in support of refugees and asylum seekers from every corner of the earth. Just as the Jewish people have thrived, so too do today's refugees of all faiths and ethnicities thrive as they rebuild their lives and become part of their new communities. We lift this cup with the words remembering the ingenuity of creation on our lips. Zichron l'maaseh v'reishit. We continue creating and repairing the world as we build our communities on the collective strength of each individual, remembering that we are stronger and strongest when we come together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahavah v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techilah, l'mikrahei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, b'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Now that we've had the sip, at least collectively through me have had the sip, we look forward to when we all can truly have a sip together. We move into our Kabbalah Shabbat, welcoming Shabbat, with song and prayer.
Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Biri, 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 bim. Bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Biri, 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 bim. Bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Maya Hayom, what makes this day so beautiful? Shabbat Shalom, the peace and wholeness of Shabbat. Maya Hayom, Maya Hayom, Maya Hayom, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach, Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach, Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. ונתחזק, חזק חזק, נתחזק, be strong, and we will be strengthened, חזק חזק, ונתחזק. Candles burn in the window every Friday night. Listen close and look within. Be part of our light. We're singing together joyfully, passing love along. Shabbat keeps our family week by week, growing strong. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק, חזק, חזק, נתחזק, be strong, and we will be strengthened, חזק, חזק, ונתחזק, חזק, חזק, ונתחזק, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, לקראת כלה, ונשבת, נקבלה, נקבלה, שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום ומבורך, שבת שלום, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, u'mevorach.
We turn to Lecha Dodi, welcoming in the Sabbath bride.
Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabla, nekabla.
It's good to welcome in the bride thoroughly, right? So right now, as we turn to the Baruch Hu, our call to worship, some of us need a little longer to be called to prayer, right? We call one another to. There was someone in the community who reached out to me earlier this week and said, you know, I love being a part of services. And what they said was, I love the prayers, I love learning about Torah, but what fills me most of all is having a sense of community, is being able to feel in a presence of other people like me, also engaged in worship, also engaged in this sacred time. And so we welcome one another. Our Baruch Hu, of course, is this call to worship. And what that call to worship means is that it's call and response. Our cantor, as a shliach tzibur, as a prayer leader, says the first line, and we as community, we respond to it. We say, yeah, we're here, we're engaged, we're part of community together. So I invite us all to rise, whether in body or in spirit, so that collectively we can respond to that call and say, yes, we are here to pray.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Together.
Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Author of life, architect of creation, artist of earth, your works declare your holy name. Mighty rivers, turbulent seas, towering mountains, rolling hills, vast spaces of brilliance and grandeur. You created palette and paint, color and hue, shape and form, abundant and beautiful, glorious and majestic, full of mystery and wonder. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said. And light blinded, we saw that inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us. As we climbed, fell back, and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed.
You may be seated.
Love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart, shall be in your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise. Bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be a symbol between your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, and upon your gates. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise, when you rise, when you rise.
Long ago, the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt. You sent Moses to help our ancestors so they could go free to worship you. Still today, there are people who are not free. We pray that they will be set free. Then all who pray to you will sing like Moses, Miriam, and Aaron did on the shores of the sea.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש.
The Hashkivenu prayer is one of our oldest prayers, a prayer that was written in Seder Rav Amram in around 860. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, it said, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace, guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings, defend us against enemies. Illness, war, famine, and sorrow distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. These words, so central to the human experience, so central to so much going on in our world. Let us offer these prayers with the fervency with which we feel them.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, להעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. פרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right, oh Adonai. Amen. 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 ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ריבונם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ריבונם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נחש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ריבונם. ושמרו בני ישראל
as if everything depended on God, but act as if everything depends on you. I invite you to rise in body or spirit for the Amidah. If you're following along in the prayer book, we are on page 164.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid teilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid teilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We invite you to continue with your personal prayers or to continue in the prayer book to page 181.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך, ששים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
So it is a long-standing tradition that on the first Friday night of the month, maybe not Rabbi Lieb long-standing tradition, but still long-standing tradition, that on this first Friday of the month, it is a family Shabbat or a story Shabbat, as it's kind of morphed into over the past 2 years, so that we could learn from and be inspired by the Agadot, the tales of our tradition that have been passed down from generation to generation. Tonight, as I mentioned earlier, is another special Shabbat, which is HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society's Refugee Shabbat. And when I realized that these two things were coming together this year, I was a little bit nervous. Because how is it that we can talk about refugee experiences, especially with everything going on in our world, through stories? And then it occurred to me that it made perfect sense, actually, because our stories are stories of people who have gone through refugee experiences. There are people in this room, or people in this room who perhaps are the children or grandchildren, or for some of us, like me, even great-grandchildren of people who were refugees coming into this country. And so I'd like to start tonight by sharing a story, just a small piece of a story, actually, about some of my family and their journey to this country from Russia. And this actually is a story that my cousin wrote into a book, which is actually a PJ Library book by the name of Anushka's Voyage. So I invite you to check it out. But she writes about her mother, Anushka, or Esther, as I know of her, who was a young girl who lived in Tsarist Russia with her grandmother and her grandfather. Her mother had died, and her father, like so many others, had gone ahead to the United States to earn enough money to bring his daughters to New York, just like he was, to bring them to safety. And after years of hard work, he was able to save up enough money to purchase 2 tickets for these girls to come to the United States on a steamboat. Anushka was 13 years old, and her sister Tanya was a few years younger. They received in the mail this letter from their father, which contained these tickets and remarks of love and of appreciation for their grandparents who had taken care of them alone for these years. And the girls, in reading this, felt both elated and also saddened. They knew that the world they lived in wasn't a safe one. They knew that their father had been working so hard in order to bring them to a land where they could have safety and peace and a promising future, but they were sad because they knew that they would not be seeing their grandparents again. That Friday night, they lit Shabbat candles with their grandmother for the last time. And once Shabbat had ended, after using these Shabbat candlesticks, she took them and handed one to each of the girls, saying, "These are candlesticks that my mother used, that she received as a wedding present, and I want you to have them in hopes that you will have good luck on your voyage." And these 2 girls held on to these candlesticks like you would a teddy bear, with such love, with such admiration, and with such hope. And they held on to them. The next day, they boarded a ship on which they would ride for 2 long weeks. Throughout the journey, they continued to hold on to those candlesticks as the prized possessions that they were. And soon, and when they were on that boat, on Shabbat, they took out those candlesticks in order to honor the holy day, in order to feel connected to their grandparents and to everything that was happening in their lives. When finally they began to arrive to New York, they witnessed the Statue of Liberty welcoming them and cried with joy. But soon that joy turned into anxiety as the girls were met with hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the world coming in from Ellis Island. The girls were separated as doctors looked them over, opened their mouths, looked in their eyes, did everything that was necessary to make sure that they were well. And once they were away from the doctor's care, they couldn't find one another. They were alone in this country where they didn't know anything that was going on, and they were so anxious. Small girls, they weren't able to see one another over the heads of adults around them. And so what did they do? Each of them, they reached into the meager possessions that they had and took out those candlesticks and lit them over their heads. And with those candlesticks, the 2 girls were able to find one another and soon be able to find their way to their father who was waiting for them and to be able to join with him. And that night, or that week, when they celebrated Shabbat, they were able to use those candlesticks as they did every week since, and as their daughter, my cousin, continues to use to this day, these candlesticks of such love passed down from generation to generation. My family's immigration to the United States wouldn't have been possible without HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. And just out of curiosity, I know everyone online can't see everyone here, and I encourage you also to put in the chat if this is true for you, for everyone who is online. But how many people here are here in part because of HIAS? Because someone in your family was helped by HIAS in some way or another, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. I think there's a few of us, right, for whom that's true. And if we look back in history, some of us might not even be aware of the effect that they've had, but truly a very big portion of the Jewish population was able to come to the country because of the help of the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. And I hope that, thinking about tonight, what I'd love to do is for us to be able to have conversations sharing our stories. And I hope that we can do that after the service in some way. For those of us online going into breakout rooms, being able to do that. For those of us here to perhaps be able to share that with one another. Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society was founded back in 1881 to assist Jews who were fleeing from pogroms in Russia and Eastern Europe. And this group took care of refugees coming to America before the word refugee was used. It was created by a group of American Jews motivated by the Talmudic obligation that all Jews should take care of one another. They provided meals, transportation, jobs, and support to the swelling Jewish community. In 1904, they even created a bureau at Ellis Island helping Jews from all over the world to get the support they needed and to be welcomed in. Since then, HIAS has expanded its operation to support immigrants, Jewish and from a variety of different backgrounds, to settle in America. It's no surprise that they are hard at work today doing all they can to support the very quickly growing Ukrainian refugee population as a result of Russia's invasion. A classmate and a friend of mine, Cantor Ilan, grew up in Ukraine, in Kyiv. As a young child having immigrated here, she immigrated here at the age of 13 with the help of HIAS. And last week, she shared her story with her community, remembering her experiences as a young child looking at the sky with fear every single time a plane went by. Not that she had experienced war, but that there was such trauma within the greater community, that the childhood games that she played were ones of reenacting battles in World War II. It was so prevalent that she felt it. She experienced that trauma, that everything that had happened that had been passed down to her and was such a big part of her childhood. She recalled this cultural generational fear brought by too much trauma, of too much war and aggression. And she also recalled how every May 1st, celebrating Victory Day at the end of World War II by buying heaps and heaps of flowers with her mother. She explains, "We would gift these flowers to decorated World War II veterans who gathered at the monument commemorating the end of the war, and we would place these flowers on the monuments, listing thousands of names of those who died defending Kyiv between 1939 and 1945. It was a way for us to say thank you for the sacrifices that they had made to allow us the privilege of living in peace. And just as my mom and I brought flowers to that square, so did hundreds, if not thousands of others, all over Kyiv and all over Ukraine and all over the former Soviet Union. I realized today," she said, "that the flower ritual was more than a way for us to honor the individual veterans, alive or fallen. And it was more than ritualizing generational trauma of all the wars, though it was that too. Perhaps most importantly, it was a way for a community to demonstrate that we do not take peace in our land for granted." Watching and reading the news about Ukraine, as we all have been doing over the past week and a half, is heartbreaking, because we all know in our bones that we should be able to take that for granted. We should all be able to live in peace without worry about war, without worry of our country being torn apart. And yet, like so many of our ancestors, millions of people are fleeing for their lives, fleeing for safety, courageously working and fighting and striving for a better future that they simply cannot take for granted. I must admit that there is not a clear path forward, Cantor Ilan continues. However, I know from the Israelites and from the flower ritual in which I had participated as a child that a sense of higher purpose and calling can be born of dark times. I also know that participating in the creation of sacred community brings with it unparalleled meaning, and that the concept of community can transcend zip codes, language barriers, and international borders. In his 1963 speech at the March of Washington, Rabbi Prince said, "As Jews, we bring to this great demonstration in which thousands of us proudly participate a twofold experience, one of the spirit and one of our history. In the realm of the spirit, our fathers taught us thousands of years ago that when God created man, he created him as everyone's neighbor. Neighbor is not a geographic term. It is a moral concept. When the Torah asks us to love our neighbor, It isn't just talking about the person who lives next door, but the human being who is in need of support, as we, or as our ancestors once were. We share our stories of immigration, of being refugees, in order to remember that human connection, remember how we all have so much in common, to compel us to stand with the refugees who so desperately need our support now. Let us lean into our common humanity and stand with Ukrainians the way we'd want others to stand up for us. This week, we end the book of Exodus, concluding with a communal act, an act in which every single individual within the community took part, working to give of themselves to do the impossible, to create a place of such holiness that God would dwell within it. This could only have happened with communal action, by neighbors standing up with neighbors, together working toward a common goal. Today, as we know, the Ukrainian people need us all to stand communally once more, to stand in supporting and advocating for them, praying for them, and donating to causes that provide relief and much-needed resources. We pray that God will look over the Ukrainians and refugees throughout the world, granting peace, strength, and wisdom. Whenever we conclude a book of Torah, there's 3 words that we always say. And these words are chazak, strength, v'nit chazek, and may we strengthen one another. We say these words to remember that, yes, we are all neighbors. We are all called to take care of one another, and when we show strength, when we demonstrate strength, we strengthen one another. May each of us be strengthened by our resolve to care for our fellow human beings, and may peace be found very quickly in the days ahead. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. Right now we pause for another prayer, a prayer for those who endure chronic conditions. We're thinking about Ezra Friedman Harvey, about Trudy Kapner, and everyone else who's in our thoughts. I want us to hold on to them and think about them, think about the courage, the bravery they show every day in living their best lives. God of our mothers and fathers, watch over all who live with genetic disorders, life-threatening medical conditions, and chronic or degenerative diseases. Bless them with endurance and resilience, fortitude and hope, with opportunities to thrive and shine even as their conditions progress. Watch over them, their families and friends, our community, and all of humankind. We pray for the wisdom and insight to see each member of our community with clear eyes and an open heart, as another human being, a whole person with hopes and dreams, proud of who they are, striving to be their best selves, struggling with this life and loving it too, as we all do. Rock and shelter, grant us all the ability to see each other's humanity clearly, to cherish each other's individuality, to care deeply about one another, to mourn our losses and celebrate our victories together, so that we live, act, and pray as one community of care and blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaver. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who strengthens our steps. We also offer our Mishaberach prayer, our prayer for healing. And I invite everyone who is online, please feel free to write the name in the chat of anyone for whom you'd like to offer this prayer for healing of mind, body, and spirit. And as I go around the room, I invite you to say aloud the names of anyone for whom you'd like to offer this prayer.
Pat Wade, Liz Scher.
Rebecca Rothstein, and Melissa Polk.
Mishebeirach Avotinu Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishebeirach imotenu Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed are you, God, whose healing presence is with all of those in need. And we all say, Amen.
Amen. As we turn towards the end of the service, we move to the Elenu Prayer. The Elenu Prayer, even on this day of Shabbat, this day that we're supposed to take a break and relax and have the soul nourishment that we need, the Elenu Prayer reminds us that when the week starts, it's on us. It's our responsibility to create the world that we wish to see.
It's up to us to call ourselves to task, to sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption. It's what we were free to do. For what's the point of being here if we're not moved to change our ways? Elenu leshabeach. It's time to live our praise.
I'm going to invite you to rise in body or in spirit.
It's up to us to own the vision. We are an answer to a call. It's up to us to live the words we speak for the benefit of all. It's up to us to bow down deeply. There's a broken world to raise. Elenu leshabeach. It's time to live our praise. Elenu leshabeach. It's time to live our praise. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malachei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'ne'emar v'hayadonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
You may be seated. And I love also seeing comments in the chat online of people sharing some of the stories of their families, and I hope that that'll continue after the service as well. But before we get there, we also, at the end of every service, take a moment to remember people who have died at this time in years past or who have died in recent weeks. We begin with a prayer by Merritt Malloy. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Tonight, we are remembering people who have died in recent days. Max Calderon, the brother of Ray Botek, and Clyde Wong, Julie Paul's brother. We're also observing the yard sites for Salik Abramowitz, Lawrence Appel, Louis Belford, Daryl Bernard, David Botwinick, Blanche Cohen, Minna Shore Cutler, Menachem Mendel Davidson, David Feinberg, Brania Fishman, Ruth Friedman, Conrad Frischman, Siri Galt, Solomon Gerlicki, Leon Greenberg, Francis Gross, Julius Hanel, Jacob Katz, Miriam Kay, Molly Kotkin, Faye Levy, David S. Lieb, Millie Linitz, Manuel Lewis, Hugo Maurer, Alfred Marks, Frederick Mishkin, Eileen Morosi, Danny Northrup, Irving Peskowitz, Conrad Platt, Julia Rubenfeld, Della Sarner, Joseph Schultz, Isidore Scharf, Annie Schulman, David Silver, Layla Smith, Rosalie Sliner, Delano Solari, George Stern, David Tabrisky, Francis Fran Taylor, Susan Talmack, Bertha Tretter, Sophie Turk, Harry Warshaw, Suzanne Wayne, Harry Wolkowski, Ethel Weiner, Rita Whitkin, and Gussie Zinner. And I invite you to write into the chat or say the name aloud of anyone else for whom we are remembering this evening. I invite us to rise in body or in spirit as we turn to page 598 in our prayer books for the Mourner's Kaddish prayer. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'yizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivrach le'olam olamei almaya, yitparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, V'yitzhadar v'yitzaleh v'yitzhalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ilam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Da'miram v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Alenu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be a blessing. And together we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I
Shabbat
want to invite you to sit for just one more moment because we actually have both of our temple presidents here tonight, which is so lovely, but we're going to have one of them come up to tell us some of the wonderful things that are coming up in the next few days. Thanks, Marla.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So this is going to be a surprise to you because it's a surprise to me because I'm just looking at this right now. So we'll do this together. We'll learn together just like we study Torah together and we learn. It's wonderful. Tonight was so special. In the very beginning, the Nigun that Cantor Ilan was singing to us. So I thought to myself, I hadn't heard that. What do you call it? Not a lyric. What do you call it?
The melody.
The melody. Hadn't heard it before. So I was listening and I liked it. And I felt this visceral something in me that made no sense at all. And then I looked up at the screen and I saw that it was a Ukrainian nigun. And I realized the connection. The most important connection is this community and its respect for our Ukrainian brothers and sisters. And how we would never have let this Shabbat go by without acknowledging that. And you did that for us with the melody. I know also that in my gut right here too, what do they call those kishkis? Right here? Yeah? My family was from the Ukraine. I don't suppose I have any relatives anymore there. But I can't help but believe that that connection is more meaningful because of what I've learned through my Jewish journey, right? About caring for others. So that the story that Rabbi Cassi told us about her family, for me, was all of our stories. From wherever we come from, it didn't matter. It just matters that we care a lot about each other. So I appreciate celebrating this Shabbat with you. I appreciate learning what I did during services. Lots of gratitude to Tina Gross for being our greeter and for Barbara Brickman who was greeting out there. And whoever's greeting online, thank you as well. It's a wonderful community we have here and a wonderful way to start this weekly holiday. So I'm pleased to represent your board of directors this evening. And I want to tell you that Shabbat continues no matter what. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., there's breakfast and story time virtually with Cantor Ilan. Then at 10 o'clock, you can join virtually again for the monthly healing service. And then tomorrow at 5 p.m. is a meditation practice with Pam Tarlow. So you can really have a very peaceful, restful, and very busy Shabbat if you'd like to. This is your last chance to buy delicious hamantashen from our wonderful sisterhood. You can contact Barbara Brickman or order online. Hamantashen deadline is this Sunday, that's day after tomorrow, March 6th, so do that. Please mark your calendars for Saturday, March 19th, beginning at 4:30 p.m. for our community Purim party right here at Temple Beth. There's a kids' carnival, a Purim spiel, Megillah, yummy barbecue dinner, Havdalah, performances from our youth choir. It's $25 for adults, $10 for children. Please RSVP to Shoni in the finance office. You know what? Let's start getting together in person as best we can, as safely as we can, and be able to celebrate this festival together. I hope everybody can attend. And if it's not in person, then I think it's partly online too. Yeah? Is that Purim?
Yes,
Is
we're
that part
working
of
on
it?
it, but
Yeah, so everybody can come, whether you're online or in person.
Well, we hope you can come.
Yes, yeah, of course. To kick off Purim, join us on Wednesday, March 16th at 7 p.m. for Erev Purim online. You will hear Megillah, and we'll have a celebrity game show style trivia contest with proceeds going to a charity. Suggested donation of $10 for the trivia contest. Please RSVP to that, to Shoni in the finance office. That sounds like so much fun. We are excited to announce that on Friday, March 18th, we will be having a very special Shabbat in person and virtually, joining with communities across North America to celebrate get this number, the 100th anniversary of the first bat mitzvah. We are also happy to announce that following our service on March 18th, we will have our first Oneg Shabbat. Do you remember what those were? Yeah, okay. We're going to have it back in person, generously hosted by the Reopening Task Force. We look forward to sharing a wonderful celebratory evening with you. And the other surprise is that one of our probably not first, but a long time ago.
Third.
She was the first?
She was the third.
The third bat mitzvah person is going to be reading Torah for us that night. Third Temple Beth bat mitzvah. I won't tell you who it is. You might guess, but anyway, that doesn't matter. Oh, maybe we could have a fundraiser contest. Guess who it is?
Ooh, guess the bat mitzvah.
Guess the bat mitzvah. I think we could do it. Okay. Please register now for our upcoming virtual Taos lecture featuring Professor Susan Aronoff on Wednesday, March 23rd. It'll be at noon. Professor Aronoff will be discussing her experience as one of the original Women of the Wall. It's $18 for individuals, $36 for households. Please RSVP to Shoni in the finance office. And Jessica Feldman wants me to remind you, it's her cousin. That professor is her cousin. So one of our very own people here she belongs to. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom. And because that wasn't quite enough, I know some of us were compelled to come to the service tonight in part because of the connection with Hayas and the refugee crisis. And I want to let you know also, if you could look in the bulletin, there is something talking about a Hayas program that's going to be happening virtually on Sunday at 10:30 in the morning, where Hayas is going to be talking about some of the things that they are involved in right now to help Ukrainians and some of the other wonderful work that they do. So if you want to be a part of that, please check that out also. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbat. Keep sharing your stories. For everyone who's online, we're going to set up breakout rooms.
It's already set up.
It's already set. There you go. So please hang around so you can share some stories and just spend some time with one another.
We're going to
Shabbat
whisk
Shalom.
you away right now to your breakout rooms. Enjoy your time with each other. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
It's so nice to see so many of you tonight.
So nice.
It's lovely. Thank you for being here. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Sarah. I'm just saying a quick hello. Thanks. Oh, Pam and the Landismans are here too. Good to see you all. Thank you. All right. I'm going to go so I don't mess up the sound with everything in here. I'll see you all later.